Chapter 1195. No. I'm not. Elder Qin stepped back in panic and said incoherently, "This image must have been forged by someone." Caillou, don't you know what his character is? How could he do such a thing? You must have forged the image. Zheng Shouyue sneered and said, "We will know whether it is fake after Dean Huang checks it." Dean Huang is a master in forging and talisman. If he can't judge that the image is fake, then it must be true. By the way, since we have to check, I think it would be better to check all the recording stones of the candidates in this assessment, right? Elder Qin staggered and almost fell down. His face was pale. Dean Huang, who was named, touched his beard and walked forward calmly. He took the recording talisman in Zhang Chong's hand and checked it, then he shook his head decisively and said, "These images do not show any signs of alteration. They are real records." Dean Huang's words made the little bit of hope in Elder Qin's heart vanish in an instant, and he sat down on a chair. There were only two words in his mind: "It's over." After confirming the authenticity of the image, everyone's attention turned to the Academy Student Council. In this incident, Elder Qin could only be considered an accomplice at most. The person who really did such a nasty thing was the invigilator of the Academy Student Council. And he was the deputy president, Caillou, who was once admired by everyone at Miracle Healer Academy. After the crowd, Lu Zhishi, Caillou, Ren Shuling and others slowly stepped forward. Ren Shuling was full of resentment and deep concern for Caillou. Caillou's face was pale and his steps were unstable, but there was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth that seemed to give up everything. Lu Zhishi walked at the front. Her eyes were flickering. When she stopped, a dark and decisive light flashed in her eyes. She finally made up her mind. Because of Zhang Chong's announcement of the recording stone, everyone was outraged by what Caillou did in the entrance assessment this time. However, seeing his appearance at this time, many people's hearts were filled with disbelief and intolerance. That was Caillou, the gentle and helpful Academy Student Council's deputy president. He had a high cultivation base and a high position, but he never bullied others. Many people had received his help. Even in the minds of some students, the prestige of the Caillou Kai deputy president was even higher than that of President Lu Zhishi. Such Caillou, would he really do such a dirty thing? Ren Shuling was even more anxious. She glared at Zhang Chong and said angrily, "Zhang Chong, have you forgotten how Brother Caillou helped you before? How can you repay your kindness like this? Did Shiyu ask you to do it? That's why you framed Brother Caillou like this." Zhang Chong's eyes were red when he saw Caillou, and he couldn't help but cry. "Deputy President, I'm sorry for you, don't say it anymore." Caillou interrupted Zhang Chong's voice gently, revealing a wry smile. "Zhang Chong, you've done enough for me. It's me who should say sorry." After finishing speaking, Caillou looked at all the students around and said in a low but clear voice, "I admit that it was me who changed Shiyu's written assessment results. I know Shiyu's talent. I saw the process of her pill refining and the process of saving people, and I deliberately pretended not to see it. I did all this, and I'm willing to accept any punishment." Chapter 1196. Voluntary. Now, when it was finally exposed, he actually felt a sense of relief. As soon as Caillou said this, the entire cafeteria was in an uproar again. Some people said in disbelief, "Caillou, we trust you so much in the Academy Student Council. Is this how you manage students? I still don't believe that Deputy President Kai would do such a thing. Do you have any difficulties?" Ren Shuling remembered her complaints against Caillou at the beginning, and when Caillou made up his mind, she cried heavily. She complained Shiyu with Caillou with the intention of letting Caillou drive Shiyu out of the Miracle Healer Academy. But she never thought that doing so would make Caillou be condemned by everyone. Ren Shuling cried, grabbed Caillou's arm and said, "Brother Caillou, is it because I told you what Shiyu did to senior sister?" Before Ren Shuling could finish her words, she felt a hand on her shoulder, preventing her from continuing. Lu Zhishi looked at her with calm and sad eyes, but there was a hint of determination that was difficult to detect. "Shueling, you shouldn't be involved in this. Chen Gang, take Shuling back first." One of the officers of the Academy Student Council who was standing behind Lu Jishi immediately stepped forward and took Ren Shuling out of the cafeteria while comforting her. At this time, everyone in the cafeteria's condemnation of Kai Yu had reached its peak. The most resentful was Dean Li Qingchuan of Heaven Medical Branch. Kai Yu, you are also considered an elite in Miracle Healer Academy. Don't you know the consequences of doing these things? Not to mention you exchanged the grades of Shi Yu and Chen Jianqing, you even lied about Shi Yu's talent in refining pill and framed him for cheating. How much grievance does Shi Yu have with you? You want to frame him like this? Kai Yu shook his head with a wry smile. I didn't know Shi Yu at all before this assessment. Then why on earth are you doing this? Kai Yu glanced at Lu Jishi and saw that Lu Jishi was looking at him pitifully. He felt pain in his heart. He secretly thought, what he did was voluntary and had nothing to do with Jishi. Why should I tell the truth to implicate Jishi? Thinking of this, Kai Yu closed his eyes and said with shame, I changed the assessment papers just because I was jealous. Seeing that Shi Yu answered almost all the questions right at a young age, if he entered the academy, he would steal my limelight. What? Just because of jealousy? How can you do such a thing? Kai Yu, we are so disappointed in you. The students' and teachers' accusations drifted into his, making Kai Yu look even more shameful. However, Lu Jishi breathed a sigh of relief, and a faint smile appeared on her mouth again. Li Qingchuan slammed the table beside and he said, So you also framed Shi Yu for cheating because of jealousy? Before Kai Yu could say anything, Elder Qin suddenly stood up and said angrily, Kai Yu, I didn't expect you to do such a thing. You've made this year's entrance examination a mess. You don't need to say anything more. Put him into the dungeon and wait for the result of the sentence. Chapter 1197. Instructed by Elder Qin was about to order his disciple to arrest him, but Zheng Shouyue took a step forward and sneered, Elder Qin, didn't you just say that the recording stone was forged by Shi Yu? Why do you say that everything is Kai Yu's fault now? Shouldn't we listen to Kai Yu's explanation? Elder Qin's face turned pale. He wanted to speak, but Zheng Shouyue's hand was on his wrist, and the pressure of spiritual power made him unable to say a word. Kai Yu took a deep breath. Without any hesitation, he said solemnly, after the results of the second assessment came out, I was really jealous of Shi Yu's outstanding talent and I also concealed her talent in pill refining, but I didn't think of framing Shi Yu for cheating. Because no one knows better than me that those 5 spiritual pills are really made by Shi Yu. However, Elder Qin suddenly found me, and he asked me to tell the investigating elder that I monitored Shi Yu all the way and never saw him refine any pill. Moreover, he also took Shi Yu's recording stone and extracted the footage that would be unfavorable to Shi Yu. You liar! Elder Qin jumped up anxiously. Kai Yu, you dare to talk nonsense. I will slap you to death right now. However, before Elder Qin jumped up, he was restrained by Zheng Shouyue. Zheng Shouyue half smiled and said, Elder Qin, you seem really desperate. Can't you just let Kai Yu finish his words? Huang Din, who was in charge of forging, appreciated Kai Yu's talent the most. He couldn't help asking, Kai Yu, do you mean Elder Qin instructed you to frame Shi Yu and her from the Miracle Healer Academy? Do you have evidence? Besides, why did Elder Qin do this? Kai Yu looked mad, but he glanced at Elder Qin in fear before saying slowly, I heard that Shi Yu and the Feng family have a deep hatred. Moreover, there is one thing the students who participated in the assessment that day all know. When Shi Yu was trapped in the elusive forest and her life or death was unknown, many students hoped that Shi Yu could survive, but Elder Qin insisted on closing the teleportation array early. It seemed like he wanted Shi Yu to die immediately. I can also testify about this. Zhang Chong immediately stepped forward and said, the assessment still have a few hours before ending and Shi Yu's recording stone was still intact. It just couldn't be activated. But Elder Qin wanted us to close the teleportation array. We even went into conflict with Shi Yu's servant. Soon, the freshmen in the cafeteria, He Jiang and He Jiyun, also stood up and testified. Elder Qin's eyes were full of anger and fear, and his voice was stuttering. You all? I'm an elder, Kai Yu said in a low voice. Shiyu's recording stone is still in Elder Qin's hand, and Shiyu's inscribed jade slip has not broken. As long as the inscribed jade slip is activated, the recording stone will sense it even if it is kept in the storage bag. Elder Qin, do you dare to deny this fact? Elder Qin screamed, staggered and fell on the chair again. His rapid and messy breathing indicated his fear and despair. This time, everyone understood that what Kai said was true. Zheng Shouyue sneered and said with a frosty face, "So, you also caused the death of Qin Jianqing and Feng Yunqing? And you want to blame Shiyu for their deaths?" Chapter 1198. The Real Murderer? No. It's not me. Elder Qin was shocked when he heard the words, and he shouted anxiously, "You can go check it out. I have never been in the dungeon and I'm not qualified to enter the dungeon. How could I kill these two people?" Framing someone for cheating and killing someone to silence them were two different things. Even if it was confirmed that he had framed Shiyu for cheating and disrupted the assessments of Miracle Healer Academy, he would at most be kicked out of the academy. But if it was confirmed that he killed someone, he would definitely be severely punished by the Miracle Healer Academy. At that time, let alone the possibility of cultivation abolishment, he might not even survive the punishment. Thinking of this, Elder Qin's voice became even more anxious. "I've been refining pill in my room for the past few days. Qin and my other disciples can testify. I definitely didn't kill them." Zheng Shouyue and Li Qingxuan confirmed from Qin and others that Elder Qin did not leave the room or go to the dungeon. He definitely couldn't kill them. However, it could never be Shiyu? Zheng Shouyue resolutely said, "Shiyu has never done those things at all, so the reason for killing them is naturally untenable. Besides, if Shiyu wants to kill them, wouldn't it be more reasonable and less suspicious for Shiyu to kill them in the practice match?" Everyone nodded when they heard the words. After so many things, a fool could see that Shiyu was a victim. Elder Ji, who was in charge of punishment, frowned and said solemnly, "Since it wasn't done by Elder Qin, investigate one by one. Who had been in the dungeon during this time and who poisoned Feng Yunqing and Qin Jianqing? If someone is suspicious before and after Feng Yunqing and Qin Jianqing were poisoned, investigate that clearly. I don't believe that I can't find the real murderer." Saying that, Elder Ji snorted coldly with a fierce gaze, "Dare to commit murder in my Miracle Healer Academy, simply tired of living." Kaiyu's face suddenly turned pale. He looked at Lu Jishi with worry in his eyes. But to his surprise, this time Lu Jishi didn't look at him. Instead, she looked indifferent, like it wasn't related to him. There was even a slight smile on her face. Just when Kaiyu was astonished, a short man with a quirky appearance suddenly walked out from behind Lu Jishi. Kaiyu recognized him. He was Jiang Zhongqing, an officer who just joined the Academy Student Council last year. Jiang Zhongqing had the word loyalty in his name, but his personality was cunning. He was good at seeing the wind. He was somehow valued by Lu Jishi half a year ago. Although Kaiyu was not worried, he would not object to such a trivial matter. So why does Jiang Zhongqing want to do at this time? Jiang Zhongqing bowed to a few deans and elders before saying with a complicated look, "I don't know if I should say this. It's about the death of Feng Yunqing and Qin Jianqing." Elder Ji said immediately, "Say it." Jiang Zhongqing glanced at Kaiyu, gritted his teeth and said unbearably, "The night before Feng Yunqing and Qin Jianqing died, I once saw Deputy President Kai went to the dungeon." "What? Is this true?" Jiang Zhongqing looked at Kaiyu with guilt. "Deputy President Kai, don't blame me. Just like Zhang Chong, although I don't want to hurt you, but my conscience won't let me lie. I can only be frank about this matter." Elder Ji's eyes were shining as he glared at Kaiyu. "It's really you who killed Feng Yunqing and Qin Jianqing?" Kaiyu blurted out, "Of course not, I definitely didn't kill anyone." Chapter 1199. Kaiyu couldn't believe it before Elder Ji finished speaking. Jiang Zhongqing sighed and shook his head. "Deputy President Kai, it has already come to this point. Stop being stubborn anymore. We can call the guard of the dungeon and ask whether you had been to the dungeon that day." Kaiyu's face turned pale, and he said in a trembling voice, "I had been to the dungeon, but I went to refine pill." I have been refining pill there all the time. Everyone knows it. Jiang Zhongqing sneered. Deputy President Kai, I know you haven't been able to calm down to refine pill for several days. Why did you suddenly feel in the mood to refine pill? And just the day after you went, Chen Jianqing and Feng Yunqing were dead. Isn't this too coincidental? Elder Ji's face turned gloomy, and he said to the boy beside him, Call the guards of the dungeon immediately. Soon, the guards of the dungeon were called over. When they heard the question, they immediately said, Yes, Deputy President Kai has indeed been to the dungeon. Another guard hesitated for a moment and said, Moreover, the prison head said that Deputy President Kai did not go to the place of pill refining immediately, but he went to the dungeon where Feng Yunqing and the others were staying for a while. Kai Yu, what else do you have to say? Elder Ji was furious. He looked at Kai Yu with cold gaze. How dare you kill people in Miracle Healer Academy? You're so bold. No, I didn't. It's really not me. Kai Yu looked at Lu Zhishi in a panic. His eyes were full of pleading and helplessness. Zhishi, he hoped that Lu Zhishi could clarify for him. If he just framed Shiyu, he would at most be kicked out of Miracle Healer Academy or be expelled to the Huang Medical Branch, but if he killed students for no reason, the punishment was not something he could bear. Lu Zhishi's long eyelashes trembled. There seemed to be sadness and disappointment in her eyes. Kai Yu, you really disappointed me so much. I believed in you so many times. For you, I asked for a petition to expel Shiyu, but I didn't expect you to even kill the students. Kai Yu, is this how you repay my trust? Lu Zhishi's words made Kai Yu's body tremble violently. His whole body swayed gently, and he was almost speechless. He felt that he must have heard it wrong. He thought it was just a dream. Lu Zhishi, my goddess, the girl I like, how could she say such a thing? She knows that I didn't kill them. She knows that I did it for her, but she ruthlessly pushes him into the abyss of hell. How could this be the fairy Zhishi in my mind? How could this be the goddess I had admired for so many years? But soon, everything was brutally shattered like a dream. People from the Academy Student Council gathered around to comfort the crying Lu Zhishi, and Jiang Zhongqing even said, President, it's not worth being sad for this kind of person. Because of him, our Academy Student Council's reputation has been ruined now. President, you've done enough for him. You don't have to care about this kind of scum in the future. Yes, he even killed his classmates. It makes me horrified to think that I was working with him. Fortunately, his evil deeds have been discovered now. I believe the elders will definitely make a public judgment. Lu Zhishi wiped away her tears, stepped forward, slightly bowed towards Elder Ji, Li Qingquan and others, and said in a sobbing tone, Zhishi is incompetent and didn't manage my subordinate properly. The Academy Student Council actually had such a ruthless person. This even implicated Shiyu. Zhishi really has no face to face the elders. Chapter 1200. Hopeless Elder Ji still had a good impression of this god's favored pretty girl. Hearing this, he immediately comforted her warmly. This matter is caused by Kai Yu's own jealousy. It has nothing to do with you, Zhishi, so you don't need to blame yourself for this kind of person. Only then did Lu Zhishi stand up, showing a pale and weak smile. Elder Ji coldly looked at the hopeless Kai Yu and Elder Qin and said coldly, Okay, now that the truth is out, this is the end of the matter. Elder Qin failed to do his duty in supervising the entrance assessment and framed student. All his duties will be removed and his elder privilege will be deprived. The Elder Council will decide his stay or leave. When Elder Qin heard the words, his face turned ashen and he collapsed onto the chair. This meant that the result of his expulsion from Miracle Healer Academy had been confirmed. As for Kai Yu, Elder Ji's eyes were like lightning and his voice seemed to be ice cold. Because of jealousy, he disturbed the normal assessment, framed his classmate for cheating, and he even killed for fear that the incident would be exposed. The evidence is conclusive. According to the rules of the Academy, Kai Yu will be exiled to the Spirit Extinct Valley. He will not be able to return without a summon. What? Spirit Extinct Valley? And there is no set return period? Isn't this the equivalent of putting Kai Yu to death? Everyone gasped when they heard the words. Spirit Extinct Valley was one of the forbidden places of Miracle Healer Academy. Not only there was no spirit in it, but it was filled with evil spirits, which could erode the dantian and meridians of martial artists. Moreover, the people who were once expelled to the Spirit Extinct Valley had either died long ago or they had become madmen with ruthless and irrational nature. It could be said that no normal person could survive in the Spirit Extinct Valley. Caillou was expelled to the Spirit Extinct Valley. Even if he didn't die, he would definitely become a waste or he would be even more miserable than death. When Caillou heard the words, he was in despair. He slowly closed his eyes and said nothing. There was a saying that it was worse than death when one has nothing to live for. Huang Din couldn't bear it. With Caillou's talent, he should have done a lot. Isn't such punishment too heavy for him? Elder Ji snorted coldly. Talent can't be used as an excuse for making mistakes. If he committed murder, then he should pay for it. Does Huang Din still want to plead for him? Soon, someone stepped forward to take both Caillou and Elder Qin away. Huang Din followed quietly and stopped Caillou before he was about to be sent into the Spirit Extinct Valley. Caillou, tell me, did you really kill Feng Yunqing and Chen Jianqing? When Caillou heard this, he couldn't bear it any longer. 2 lines of hot tears rolled down. Din Huang, if I said I didn't do it, would anyone still believe me? No, no one will believe me anymore. Din Huang sighed. Your forging talent is one of the best even in the entire Miracle Healer Academy, especially your forging direction is so special. I originally hoped to train you to become a talent and finally send it to the upper realm, but I didn't expect such a thing would happen. Caillou bowed his head in shame. His tears dropped on the ground drop by drop, and he sobbed, Din Huang, I'm sorry to let down your high hopes. I did things that went against my conscience for the unworthy person, but I was thrown away like a garbage. If I have another chance to choose, what? What does it mean for the unworthy? Caillou shook his head with an ashen face and said nothing. He walked toward the enchantment of the Spirit Extinct Valley. Chapter 12:01 Division of Labor. Din Huang stepped forward, stuffed a green bead into his hand without being noticed and said in a low voice, You must persevere. I will plead with Din and hope that he will release you. Caillou was stunned. He subconsciously clenched the bead before being pushed into the enchantment by the people of Elder Ji. Passing through the enchantment, the mellow spiritual power disappeared, and the cold, evil spirit rushed toward him. It was like hell on one side and heaven on the other. Caillou closed his eyes and felt the faint energy emanating from the green beads. This energy enveloped his mind and dantian, preventing his mind and dantian from being eroded by the evil spirit. However, this kind of protection was a drop in the bucket after all. It was like a tiny little flame in a violent storm that would go out at any time. Caillou looked down at the bead. The light in his eyes disappeared under the reflection of the black evil spirit and the green bead. Go back? It can still go back? There had been a lot of noise in Miracle Healer Academy lately, and almost everything was Heshi related. But Heshi didn't seem to care. She just lived her life gracefully. Mom, you are finally willing to let Little Egg out. Little Egg is suffocating to death. White light flashed in the dormitory, and the figures of Little Egg, Little Golden Dragon, Little Dumb Cow, and Xiao Li all appeared. Little Egg jumped into Heshi's arms and complained loudly, Bad Mom, you didn't let Little Egg out for so long. When the bad guys bullied Mom, Little Egg wanted to come out to beat the bad guys, but Mom didn't allow it either. Little Egg was really suffocating in there. Little Golden Dragon also held his paws and said angrily, That group of idiots dared to say that you cheated and dared to question your pill refining ability. Hee, now they should have suffered the consequences. I heard that Caillou was sent into the Spirit Extinct Valley. He will suffer now. He deserves it. That's what you get for framing boss. Little Golden Dragon was different from Little Egg. He could change his shape at will. Although he couldn't restrain all his aura, as long as someone didn't use divine sense to investigate or break into the enchantment, no one would find out his presence. But who would use divine sense to detect a fly? Heshi smiled and said, Okay, stop arguing, my roommate just happened to be not coming back tonight. Let's go check out the whole academy. In the past few days, in addition to the cultivation, He has been stepping around in the academy to inquire about the situation. However, people came and went during the day, so it wasn't easy to do anything. At night, the students were not allowed to leave the dormitory at will, so there was no clue about the search for Wu Qi. Little egg, you first hide our cultivation base, don't let spiritual power leak. Xiao Li, you pay attention to casting illusions so that people can't see our existence with the naked eye. Little dumb cow casts the enchantment. If anyone approaches, tell me immediately. He also searched for a long time before confirming that the president's office of the Academy Student Council, which was the room where Lu Zhishi was, had a detailed map of the academy. Miracle Healer Academy was too big, and there were enchantments in almost every place. If they searched by themselves, it would take a long time to find Wu Qi. Little Golden Dragon heard that He had assigned tasks to everyone, but he wasn't assigned with anything, and he immediately said in a hurry, "Boss, what about me? What about me?" He smiled and said, "Of course you are scouting in front. Only your ability can avoid some simple arrays and let us enter the Academy Student Council." Chapter 12:02. Remember to record. When Little Golden Dragon heard the words, he immediately smiled heartily. Look, even if Little Egg acts like a spoiled child, even if Little Dumb Cow's cultivation is higher, Boss still relies on me the most. They successfully passed through the dormitory area and came to the Academy Student Council. The building where the Academy Student Council was located was already dimly lit and quiet. There were only some lighting crystal stones on the aisles. Because Little Golden Dragon scouted in front and many arrays only prevented the fluctuation of spiritual power, He, whose cultivation and spiritual power were hidden by Little Egg, quickly passed through the enchantment of the Academy Student Council. Just as she was about to enter Lu Zhishi's room, she heard the voice of Little Golden Dragon. "Boss, wait a minute, there seems to be someone inside." He squinted and jumped above the beam. Little Egg, Xiao Li and Little Dumb Cow were all taken into the void by her. Only Little Golden Dragon turned into a gecko and crawled in the direction of the sound. He was thinking about sneaking in to see the situation, but a scene suddenly appeared in her mind. This was a dark room. There was only a faint light of crystal stone in the room, but she could see that the room was luxurious and elegant. There were two people in the room, a man and a woman. He recognized the woman immediately. It was Lu Zhishi. The proud voice of Little Golden Dragon soon came from her divine sense. "Boss, I have already reached the threshold to rank 6. This is my newly discovered ability. How is it? Amazing, right? Like the implementation of live video, it is really powerful." He laughed and said to Little Golden Dragon with divine sense, "Not bad. But the picture is unstable. It seems that you can't last long." Little Golden Dragon sighed in annoyance, gritted his teeth and said, "When I break through rank 6, I can fetch images from thousands of miles away to you, boss." He didn't speak. She just focused her divine sense on the image, watching it in her mind. She said, "Little Golden Dragon, remember to record it." Little Golden Dragon sneered twice. "No need to remind me, boss. I have already used recording talisman." The recording talisman in Hexi's hand was sent by Jiang Huai. There was no spiritual power fluctuation at all during recording. When Jiang Huai recorded Feng Lianying's ugly manners in the sealed dragon domain, even Feng Yunjing didn't notice it. This showed the concealment of this recording talisman. At this moment, He heard the short man spoke. He, that idiot Kai Yu has always regarded himself very highly and looked down on me. Now it's his turn to fall into the abyss. I want to see can he still be arrogant in the future." Lu Zhishi glanced at the short man with a light expression, and the short man shrank his neck and said with a pleasing smile, "President, don't be angry. Shiyu was just lucky this time. Next time, we can definitely get rid of him." Lu Zhishi shook her head lightly and said, "Zheng Shouyue has already been eyeing us. With Wei Qingyuan's relationship, we can no longer act rashly. As for Kai Yu, have you made arrangements? I see that Dean Huang is very attentive to Kai Yu. Maybe he will plead to let him out." The short man immediately smiled confidently. "President, Don't worry, it's just getting rid of one person. Isn't it an easy task for us? Caillou definitely won't be able to walk out of the spirit extinct valley alive. Lu Jishi nodded and squinted her eyes coldly. Caillou, this idiot. Since he decided to set Shiyu up, he should be more ruthless. Due to his overcautiousness and indecisiveness, Shiyu can now act arrogantly in front of me. Chapter 1203, The New Skills of the Little Ones. The little man echoed, President, don't be bothered by this kind of idiot. He deserves to take the blame for the death of Feng Yunqing and Chen Jianqing. As for Shiyu, as long as the Lu family accomplishes that task, the entire Miracle Healer Academy will be under the control of the Lu family. Why should President worry about a mere Shiyu? Lu Jishi breathed a sigh of relief, took out 2 inscribed jade slips from a jade box and handed them to the short man. This is the most detailed map of Miracle Healer Academy. Only the president and the deputy president are qualified to view it. You memorize the map of Spirit Extinct Valley clearly now so that you can easily get rid of Caillou. Another inscribed jade slip can protect the person who enters it from being eroded by evil spirits within 2 hours. You must let your people do it quickly. The short man's eyes lit up. He quickly took the inscribed jade slip. Don't worry, President. They will definitely be able to handle this trivial matter. After Lu Jishi instructed the short man, she turned and left. The short man was still memorizing the map. The image in the divine sense flickered and disappeared. Apparently the little golden dragon couldn't hold on anymore. Heshi came down silently from the beam, summoned Shaoli and whispered a few words in her ear. Shaoli immediately showed a sly smile and nodded again and again. Miss, don't worry, that short man's cultivation is only at the early stage of the gold core stage. He can't resist my illusion at all. Shaoli said and jumped away. After 10 minutes, Heshi saw the short man stumbled out of Lu Jishi's office, murmuring, I've already memorized the map. I've memorized it clearly. Heshi smiled slightly and stepped into the room. Shaoli immediately rushed to Heshi's side and smiled. Miss, I changed his inscribed jade slip and made him remember part of the map incorrectly. When he enters Spirit Extinct Valley, he will definitely be trapped to death inside. Hee, good job. Heshi touched her little head and took the inscribed jade slip on which the map was written. The content in the inscribed jade slip was indeed the whole map of Miracle Healer Academy. Every tree and grass could be seen at a glance. It was fine to just memorize Spirit Extinct Valley, but it was almost impossible to memorize the terrain of the entire Miracle Healer Academy. Heshi frowned and said, This inscribed jade slip has been specially processed and cannot be copied. I can't remember it in a short time. What should we do? Who said can't memorize? Little Egg shook his pink paws and said, Little Egg can remember in just a glance. Just a glance? Heshi's eyes widened slightly. You've read the entire map in such a short time? How did you finish it? In fact, if Heshi could read it all, she could also remember it, but the problem was that the Miracle Healer Academy was too big. She couldn't read every corner in a few hours. Little Egg scratched his head and said with a puzzled face, I just put divine sense in it and read it, then I read it all? But if Mom you ask me how, I also don't know? Heshi still didn't believe it. She picked a few places and tested Little Egg. She even took out a blank inscribed jade slip and asked Little Egg to try to copy it. As a result, Little Egg copied it without even thinking. Heshi was overjoyed. She hugged Little Egg and kissed him a few times, and she said excitedly, Little Egg, you are really Mom's good helper. Hee, am I more powerful than Little Golden Dragon and Sister Shaoli? Heshi scratched his nose and chuckled, Yes, little ancestor, you are the best. Satisfied? Chapter 1204, Protect Chastity. Shaoli smiled gently, grabbing Heshi's hand and saying nothing. Little Golden Dragon snorted disdainfully and looked unwilling. Little Dumb Cow was much more stupid. He didn't understand what everyone was arguing about. He just stared at Little Egg like an idiot. Heshi put the inscribed jade slip that recorded the map back to its original position, waved to the little ones, and went back to their dormitory together. She also wanted to destroy Lu Zhishi's map, but there were many talented people in the Miracle Healer Academy and there were many arrays in the Academy Student Council. Although the arrays were relatively simple, who knows if there were any traps in them? It would be bad if she alerted them. Back in the dormitory, everyone entered the void, waiting for Little Egg to copy the entire map into the inscribed jade slip. Little Golden Dragon handed the recording talisman to Heshi, smiled and said, "Boss, you recorded this thing to expose Lu Zhishi's black heart? If people see this, her good people mask will be exposed. Do you think you can make Lu Zhishi fall with just an image?" Heshi sneered. As long as Lu Zhishi shed a tear in front of everyone and cried that she was wronged, do you think the students and elders of the entire Miracle Healer Academy will believe me more than her? Of course, they'll believe her. Little Golden Dragon stomped on the linden tree dejectedly. The people in this academy are really stupid. Is this Lu Zhishi so great? Isn't she just have a pretty face and good in acting pity? All of them are fooled by this. Look at that dumb Caillou, he worked for her, but looked at where he ended up now. Bunch of idiots. Heshi smiled lowly, took the first inscribed jade slip handed over by Little Egg and read with divine thought. The inscribed jade slip in Lu Zhishi's hand was specially made and could record a lot of content, but Heshi only had an ordinary inscribed jade slip, so she could only let Little Egg reproduce a part of the map. Right. Little Golden Dragon suddenly thought of something excitedly. He hovered in the air and said, "Are these people believing in Lu Zhishi because of her pretty face? Boss, why don't you stop disguising as a man and make yourself pretty? I can guarantee that no one will be able to look away from you. Let's see who will believe in that black-hearted lotus by then." Hee hee, boss, isn't my idea great? Heshi's mouth twitched and she thought to herself, such a crappy idea, you still have the face to ask me about it? Before she could speak, Little Egg immediately put down the inscribed jade slip and rushed to Heshi's side. He grabbed her arm and shook his head desperately. "No. Daddy said that he wanted me to be Mom's side to protect Mom's chastity. I can't let those frivolous men lay their hands on Mom, and I can't let Mom fall in love with another man. No one can covet Mom. Absolutely not. Protect chastity?" Heshi felt blue veins bursting on her forehead. These little guys really lack discipline. She no longer cared about the two little ones who were arguing with each other. She started to search for suspicious places in this academy inch by inch with Shaoli. Shaoli looked at it for a while, then she frowned. "Miss, many places in this Miracle Healer Academy have enchantments, and they need points to enter. Look here, and here." Heshi also nodded. "I also found out that all those suspicious places need points." The promotion system adopted by Miracle Healer Academy was a clear points system. Chapter 1205. Points System. Students who completed their assignments, participated in assessments, and got the approval of the elders would receive points. There would be various competitions in the academy from time to time. Those who won in the competitions would get points. Of course, those who lost would also get their points deducted. As for the amount of points earned or deducted, it depended on the importance of the competitions. Of course, in addition to assessments and assignments, Miracle Healer Academy also offered many simple jobs. For example, taking care of the spiritual herb garden, raising spiritual beasts and running errands for elders, they could all gain points. Of course, this kind of work gave very few points, basically only 1 to 2 points at a time. The last way to get points was to complete the missions issued by the academy. This was a bit similar to the mercenaries in Heshi's previous life. Those missions generally had certain dangers, which was also a training for students. If those missions could be completed, the amount of points obtained was not comparable to finishing assignments or works. Heshi sighed and said, "I have checked my points. Because I passed the freshman assessment and performed well in the second assessment, I got 12 points. But these points aren't even enough to buy the slightly better tasting spiritual food in the cafeteria, let alone enter those enchantments." Shaoli said, "Miss, if I secretly charm the person who manages the enchantments, maybe." "Absolutely not." Heshi rejected decisively. "I have met more than a dozen elders of nascent soul stage in this academy alone, and almost all of the butlers and students are at the gold core stage, so we definitely can't fight them forcibly. You must not act rashly, do you hear me? Xiao Li's face turned pale after hearing Hexi's serious words, and she lowered her head sadly. Hexi reached out, touched her little head and said softly, "Don't worry, in a few days, when I'm familiar with the Huang medical branch, I'll ask about those point missions." And, she lowered her voice, and her divine sense landed on the corner of the map. She smirked. "There is another place in Miracle Healer Academy that other students may not be able to enter even if they earn a lifetime of points, but I can go in and find out right away." Xiao Li raised her head in surprise. "Is that?" A phantasm of the map quickly appeared above the inscribed jade slip. Hexi pointed to one of the places where Beijing Pavilion was written, and she smiled. "The highest level forbidden area in Miracle Healer Academy, the amount of points required is unknown. It is even higher level than the Spirit Extinct Valley and Dean's Room. I don't know where that is, but maybe we can find clues about Wu Qi in it." Xiao Li nodded, looking at Hexi with trust and admiration in her eyes. As long as her miss said so, she was willing to trust it unconditionally, and she had never lied to her. As they were talking, the space suddenly fluctuated, which meant someone was approaching. Hexi exited the void immediately and opened her eyes. However, Hexi was already mentally prepared, but when she opened her eyes, she was still startled. Xian Mu was sitting cross-legged on the opposite bed. There was a faint smell of blood in the air, which added a bit of killing intent to the already dim dormitory. After sensing Hexi woke up, Xian Mu opened his eyes. The pair of dark and deep eyes met Hexi's eyes. The coldness and killing intent in those eyes made Hexi frown slightly. But Hexi didn't feel afraid. She just smiled casually. Chapter 1206. Return gift. She threw a porcelain bottle, and it landed beside Xian Mu with a perfect parabola. Treat it as a return gift of the silkworm quilt. After speaking, Hexi didn't even look at Xian Mu as if she didn't even realize the killing intent radiating from him. She turned around and lay back on the bed. She didn't dare to go into the void for the time being, so she just went to sleep normally. Xian Mu reached out and took the porcelain bottle. As soon as he opened the bottle, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. His complex gaze looked at the bed on the upper left. The young man's figure was covered by the silkworm emitting a faint soft light. Only the black silky brocade-like long hair was scattered on the bed. If the young man just asked a question or showed the intention to investigate, he would probably kill him. However, to Xian Mu's surprise, the young man seemed to have no interest in his injury or what he was doing. The medicinal pills thrown over were also effective for his current condition. "He can judge my injury by just smelling my blood?" Xian Mu frowned, suppressed the complicated thoughts in his mind and swallowed a medicinal pill. The warm medicinal power spread from the dantian to the whole body. It had a reassuring comfort and tolerance. The night passed in quiet cultivation and deep sleep. It was Hexi's third day taking classes at Huang Medical Branch, but the classroom situation here still made her sigh. There were not many students in Huang Medical Branch, at least not many in the class. No one was serious. They were either sleeping or practicing on their own, which was completely different from every student in the Heaven Medical Branch's class who listened carefully to the class. Most of the elders teaching at Huang Medical Branch were at the nascent soul stage, but their attitude was completely incomparable to the elders teaching at Heaven Medical Branch. These elders were usually impatient in class, and they were too lazy to go deep into some basic theories. Hexi occasionally asked questions about things she didn't understand, but they didn't seem to care. Hexi also wanted to get angry, but when she saw those students fooling around in the class, she didn't know who to sympathize with. In desperation, Hexi had to save enough points first and go to the library to check the information. In fact, the courses taught by these elders still benefited Hexi a lot. Her biggest problem now was that her foundation was not solid enough. So when Hexi went to the library, she would stay on the first floor where there was almost no one there. Most of the books on the first floor were elementary books on various basic cultivation methods, including the most simple theories on pill refining, forging, medical skills, and arrays. Those who could enter the Miracle Healer Academy were all talented. They had been familiar with the basic theories, but only He was an outlier. In pill refining, she had now reached the level of a great master, but she had little understanding of some basic theories. The same was true for her cultivation. Therefore, these elementary books, that were ignored by other students, made He eager to read. This happened many times, and the administrator of the library and some students started to notice He's actions. Originally, if someone read elementary books every day like He and he is a student from the Huang medical branch, he would definitely be ridiculed and despised. But Shiyu was different. Chapter 1207. Problems with the pill formula nowadays. Who didn't know that Shiyu's pill refining level had amazed all the teachers and students in the second round of entrance assessment? A martial artist of the foundation establishment stage had refined a 5 spiritual pill of grade 4, and it was even the best quality pill. Could anyone simply laugh at and despise her? Not to mention, she could resist a rank 7 magical beast alone with her low cultivation. So, everyone was focusing on the wrong spot. Just because Shiyu squatted on the first floor of the elementary library every day, everyone thought that there was a precious secret book in the elementary library, so they rushed to the elementary library to search for treasure. The library on the first floor, which was empty usually, suddenly became overcrowded. However, when they went to look at the book He read, they were all dumbfounded. What is this? Leading qi into the body, breathing, and spiritual power operation. It's just what we have learned a long time ago. So, what exactly is Shiyu looking at here? However, these people couldn't catch He's attention at all. She had now finished sweeping the elementary books on the first floor, and she went to the second floor. Although the reading of the books on the first floor also required points, 1 point could let her read for a whole day. But the books on the second floor were much more expensive. Reading 5 books had to pay 1 point. For a poor student like she really didn't have enough points. Therefore, on this day, she carefully selected for a long time before taking a pill formula book. The books of Miracle Healer Academy were all made of a special paper instead of inscribed jade slip. This ancient book of pill formula was new instead. Apparently, no one really read it. It was not that this pill formula book was not profound, but because it was too profound and the explanation was not detailed. Many spiritual herbs mentioned in it cannot be found in the Miluo continent, so they were gradually ignored. Because the ordinary pill refiner could refine according to the method even if he read this book. However, He was very satisfied with this pill formula book, because it was the only book that she could read the refining methods and theories of the grade 5 and 6 medicinal pills with the minimum points. Time passed by slowly. He was so immersed in this pill formula book that she almost forgot everything. However, He frowned from time to time when she saw the last part of the book. Why? Do you have any questions after reading this book? He raised her head suddenly, and she suddenly recovered her senses. She saw an unshaven old man in front, and she stood up in surprise and said, "Dean Zeng, why are you here?" Zeng Shuyue touched his beard and stared at He for a while. There were inexplicable emotions in his eyes which seemed to be sad and also hope. He coughed lightly, restrained his emotions, and smiled. "This book is a little too deep for you. Even some elders in the academy who specialize in pill refining can't understand it. It's normal for you to read with a little understanding. You can choose some intermediate pill refining books first, and you can ask me if you have any questions." He shook her head and said, "No, I think this book is very easy to understand. It's just that there are some problems with the pill formula in it." "There are some problems with the pill formula?" Zeng Shuyue frowned when he heard this. He originally had high hope on this student, but at this moment, he was dissatisfied with her arrogant attitude. Chapter 1208. Yin and Yang Offset. A freshman who has just entered the academy actually said that she could understand this book, Ancient Pill Code. He had also read this book, and he still couldn't fully comprehend the understanding in it. However, thinking of Shiyu's outstanding talent, Zeng Shuyue still took over the book from Shiyu. What was written on it was the simplest formula for the blood healing pill, and it was a grade 3 blood healing pill. This was very popular in the current Milieu continent. Zheng Shouyue took a look. After determining that the pill formula was the same as his common pill formula, he couldn't help frowning and said, "Isn't this the ordinary blood healing pill formula? What's the problem?" These medicinal pills had been used for thousands of years, and no one had ever raised any doubts. How could there be a problem? But thinking that Shiyu was at the age of learning, so he was relieved again. Putting the ancient pill code on the table, Zheng Shouyue stroked his beard and said with a smile, "If you have any questions, you can go to my pill refiner and try to refine it a few times. After refining, you will know the essence of this pill formula. You will understand why such a pill formula has been circulating in Milieu continent for thousands of years." Heshi shook her head and chuckled, "I know without refining it. There is a big problem with this pill formula." Zheng Shouyue was a little unhappy now, but he still calmly said, "Then tell me, what's wrong with this pill formula?" The library had always been quiet. Because of their argument, many students were attracted. Originally, some people wanted to scold them for being noisy, but when they saw their identities, they all shut up. Especially when everyone found that Zheng Shouyue was looking at Shiyu's unkind eyes, and they immediately guessed that Shiyu was hated by this dean. They couldn't help but gloat at the misfortune. However, Heshi didn't notice the onlookers and Zheng Shouyue's displeasure. She just stretched out her slender finger, tapped on the book and said calmly, "There are two main medicines in this pill formula. They are fire essence jujube and ice flower. Fire essence jujube produces blood and ice flower nourishes veins. If they are separated, there is no problem, but if they are combined to refine pills, there will be a problem." Before Zheng Shouyue asked another question, Heshi continued, "Although these two spiritual herbs do not conflict with each other in terms of efficacy, they are one of fire and one of water, one of yang and the other of yin. The yin and yang of the medicinal properties offset each other. Although the medicinal pills are not harmful to the human body, they greatly waste the value of the pill itself. Moreover, once the amount of fire essence jujube and ice flower is adjusted improperly, the medicinal pills will contain cold poison or fire poison. If one takes these medicinal pills for a long time, his body will definitely be harmed. Dean Zheng, what do you think of this?" Zheng Shouyue was stunned, staring at the young man with wide eyes. Then he muttered to himself after a while, "Yin and yang offset each other? Yes, it really is one yin and one yang. Will they really offset each other?" The students' onlookers were even more uproar when they heard Shiyu's remarks. Some were disdainful, some were puzzled, and some were shocked. What yin and yang offset each other? He is just bullshitting. This is a pill formula that has been handed down for thousands of years. Can Shiyu change it himself? I think what Shiyu said is not unreasonable. I heard that some people who take the inferior blood supplement pills will inexplicably get fire poison. I've never heard of anyone who can modify pill formula by themselves. What if the refined medicinal pills cause death to people? Chapter 1209. Improvement Method. A person suddenly rushed out of the crowd, grabbed Heshi's hand, and said nervously, "You said that the fire essence jujube and ice flower offset each other, so do you have any way to improve it?" Heshi looked up in amazement. She found that the person grabbed her hand was a young man with an ordinary appearance and big ears. But his eyes were extremely clear and bright. When he talked about medicinal pills, his eyes seemed to be burning. Someone in the crowd recognized this person. "Isn't that Jia Shujie from Heaven Medical Branch? I heard that he is a pill maniac. He is not interested in anything other than pill refining. Even his cultivation didn't increase much. He has entered the Miracle Healer Academy for more than 2 years, and he is still in the early stage of the Gold Core stage. It's also because his cultivation can't be improved, which made him unable to refine high-grade medicinal pills, so he is almost abandoned by the elders now. Maybe he will fall to the Earth Medical Branch next year." The people around were criticizing Jia Shujie, but Jia Shujie didn't seem to notice. He stared at Heshi without blinking. His burning eyes could seem to burn a hole on her face. Heshi didn't care about his rudeness. She waved her hand slightly to shake him off and smiled slightly. What if I replace the fire essence jujube with ice crystal jujube? Ice crystal jujube? Replace fire essence jujube with ice crystal jujube? Jia Shujie murmured and repeated Heshi's words as if falling into a madness. Yes, ice crystal jujube also has the effect of generating blood, and its ice crystal attribute and ice flower's ice attribute won't offset each other, but they will complement each other. But in this way, won't there be too much cold poison in the medicinal pills? Heshi raised her brows and said leisurely, whether it will contain cold poison, try it and you'll know? Zheng Shouyue was also impatient at this time. Shiyu, let's go to the pill refining room of Huang Medical Branch now and try the pill formula you mentioned. Then they came to the pill refining room of Huang Medical Branch. There were also students following behind them. Almost all the students in the library who watched this scene followed. They all had to witness with their own eyes whether the pill formula, which had been handed down for thousands of years, could be improved. In the pill refining room of Huang Medical Branch, there were only a few students doing pill refining. Everyone's face was full of disappointment. Of course, the environment here was also very bad. The spirit in the air couldn't even be felt. Noticing that a group of people came in and many of them were students of the 4 upper courtyards, these people stopped refining pills and stood up awkwardly. Many of the students of the 4 upper courtyards were full of despise when looking at the finished products they refined. Those were residues or low-grade medicinal pills. Even an idiot like Jia Shujie showed a worried look, grabbed Heshi and said, "Go to my pill refining room. I have carved several spirit gathering arrays there. You will definitely be able to refine good medicinal pills." Jia Shujie's words made the people of Huang Medical Branch bow their heads one after another, showing humiliation and anger. Heshi refused nonchalantly, "No need. As long as you have the ability, it's the same to refine pill anywhere. What's more, isn't it just grade 3 blood healing pill? Is there a need for making such a fuss?" Except for Jia Shujie, who was a pill maniac, looked convinced and admired, everyone else showed a sneering look. Several people in Heaven Medical Branch snickered, waiting for Heshi to make a fool of himself. Heshi took some spiritual herbs from the storage shelf in the Huang Medical Branch's pill refining room, looked at a boy who was paler than others and said, "Can you help me process these herbs?" Chapter 12:10. Pills refined many spirit herbs that were freshly picked and stored needed to be processed before refining. However, this kind of trivial, boring and unskilled work used to be easily handled by Little Egg with a wave of his paws, so Heshi didn't know how to process them until now. The young man widened his eyes in shock, pointed at himself and said, "Me?" Heshi nodded, "You don't want to?" Then she frowned. "It can pay you a point." Jia Shujie was anxious, and he immediately said, "I'll do it. Shiyu, let me handle the herbs for you. You just need to hurry up and refine the new blood healing pill." "No. Please let me do it." The young man stepped forward and said with a trembling tone, "I can handle these herbs." Saying that, he grabbed the herbs from Heshi's hand and started to process them seriously. Jia Shujie wanted to say something, but when he saw the colorful colors on the boy's fingers, he paused. This is a trace left by processing herbs for a long time. Is Shiyu looking for him because he sensed the young man's abilities? The red spiritual fire was burning in the pill refining furnace. That's right, not the golden spiritual fire, not the Dantian fire in Heshi's body, but the earth spiritual fire she accidentally acquired in the elusive forest. In fact, this grade 3 blood healing pill, according to Heshi's previous practice, she could refine them in 15 minutes. But now there were too many people watching. In order to avoid attracting unnecessary attention, she used the earth's spiritual fire and followed the steps described in the book. Soon, the medicinal pills were refined. The top of the cauldron was opened, and a strong medicinal fragrance came out. Looking at the 16 medicinal pills neatly arranged in the pill cauldron, the pill refiners in Huang Medical Branch all gasped. No one knew how shabby the Huang Medical Branch's pill refining room was than the people who refined pills here every day. Among them, there were not many people who could successfully refine a batch of medicinal pills every day. Even if they succeeded, there were only 2 to 3 pills. But what about Shiyu? She just casually refined 16 pills in a cauldron, using the spiritual herbs of the most average quality. The only person in the audience who pouted and shook head was probably Heshi. Sure enough, without using her own refining method and spiritual fire, she couldn't bear to look at the pity amount. If she had such low efficiency in pill refining on weekdays, Shengda Hall would have closed down early. Although the people in the 4 upper courtyards were not as shocked as the people in the Huang medical branch, they no longer dared to look down on Shiyu. Although they knew that Shiyu's pill refining skill was excellent, hearing it was different from seeing it with their own eyes. Jia Shujie had completely lost his mind at this time. He grabbed one of the medicinal pills with shock and excitement, and his voice was shaking. He really did it? I didn't expect that the pills are really refined after changing the formula. Doesn't this mean all the pill formulas can be modified? No, I have to try the effect of this pill first. As he spoke, he was about to stuff it in his mouth. His classmate from Heaven Medical Branch quickly grabbed his hand and said anxiously, "Shujie, are you crazy? These medicinal pills have not been tested yet. Who knows what will happen after you eat them?" Yeah, if the ice properties of ice crystal jujube and ice flower are condensed in the medicinal pills, wouldn't you be infected with cold poison? Chapter 12:11. Pill refining genius Jia Shujie looked depressed and wanted to try, but he was really afraid that something wrong would happen. Suddenly, a bony but colorful hand stretched out from the side, took the medicinal pills, and swallowed it in one mouthful. Ah! Someone couldn't help but let out an exclamation. It turned out that it was the young man who had just processed the herbs for Shiyu. He swallowed the medicinal pills in Jia Shujie's hands without hesitation. For a while, there was silence in the medicinal pills room. Everyone looked at the pale young man. He frowned slightly, his lips pursed tightly, and his cheeks flushed slightly as if he was enduring some kind of pain. Look, I told you that there is a problem with the medicinal pills. He is beyond saving now. If she can casually change the pill formula, then there will not only be so little medicinal pills on Miluo continent. Just when everyone was gloating over the misfortune, Jia Shujie threw away his friend's hand and rushed to the young man, grabbed his hand and began to examine his body. The young man seemed to have recovered at this time. His originally pale face was filled with a bit of ruddy. He looked at Heshi with touching tears. Senior Shi, can I take a few more medicinal pills? Heshi spread her hands slightly. These 15 are all yours. Wait! Jia Shujie jumped in shock. He grabbed one pill and said anxiously, I want it too. I want it too. Give me a few. After speaking, without even waiting for Shiyu to answer, he swallowed the medicinal pills in his hand. When the medicinal powers melted in his body, Jia Shujie showed a fascinated expression. His body trembled with excitement. Wonderful, it's really wonderful. Just changed one herb, I didn't expect it to have such an effect. Shiyu, you're truly a genius of pill refining. As soon as Jia Shujie said this, everyone in the pill refining room all looked at Heshi in shock. The boy took 2 medicinal pills a little embarrassedly, kept them carefully and said, Senior Shi, I have suffered from blood loss since I was a child. I have to take hundreds of blood-healing pills every year, but not only my blood loss is cured, but it also caused a dryness heat in my body and an imbalance of yin and yang. I can't even refine pills anymore. But after taking the blood-healing pill you refine, I feel that the dryness heart has disappeared, and my blood is recovered by more than 3 times when taking the other blood-healing pills. Senior Shi, you are really amazing. Heshi smiled and looked the young man up and down. You are a student of the Huang medical branch, right? Me too. So don't call me Senior Shi, call me Shiyu. The young man nodded with eyes full of admiration and excitement. But before he could speak again, the students who heard the words swarmed up and snatched all the medicinal pills in the pill cauldron. Zheng Shoyue held the only one of the medicinal pills he grabbed with an ugly face. He felt very displeased. They were obviously his students. How could he fight with other students just for a pill refined by his student? Jia Shujie was even more sad that he didn't take more. Zheng Shouyue swallowed the medicinal pill and determined that the efficacy of the medicinal pills was enhanced without containing any cold poison. He couldn't help but wonder, Shiyu, why do the spiritual herbs of ice attribute complement each other to enhance the pill without producing cold poison? Chapter 12:12. Accept me as your disciple, okay? Heshi smiled leisurely. She swayed her finger gently, and a flame appeared at her fingertip. Of course it's because of spiritual fire. After ice crystal jujube and ice flower are put into the pill cauldron, I wrap them with spiritual fire and absorb the coldness of the herbs bit by bit with spiritual fire, but it won't offset their medicinal effects. In this way, the efficacy of medicinal pills is naturally doubled. Zheng Shouyue was stunned for a moment, then he clapped and laughed. Yes, spiritual fire belongs to yang, but it is heaven yang. It will not conflict with medicinal properties. As long as the spiritual fire expels the coldness of spiritual herbs, it will naturally double its effectiveness. But the smile on Zheng Shouyue's face turned into shock immediately, and he looked at Heshi in a daze for a while before saying, Shiyu, even if ordinary people know the properties of medicine, they would not have thought of such a refining method? How did you think of it? Heshi frowned, and she said as if it was normal, is there a need to think? Shouldn't you know the refining method after getting familiar with the various properties of spiritual herbs? For example, if the coldness remains, then use spiritual fire to remove it. For example, ice flower is soluble, it dissolves while the coldness is expelled, then it will naturally merge with the ice crystal jujube. Isn't it normal? Zheng Shouyue opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word for a while. Is it normal? Yes, it is normal. However, without anyone giving advice and guidance, who would have thought, who could have done it? However, this young man did it, and he did it so easily like breathing in and out. He didn't hesitate at all. Ice crystal jujube replaces fire essence jujube, which not only improves the medicinal properties of medicinal pills, but it also reduces the cost. Because on Miluo continent, the price of ice crystal jujube is much lower than that of fire essence jujube, but the effect of blood healing pill has been more than doubled. The young man looks so calm. Does he know what shocking things he has done? Zheng Shouyue took a deep breath and suddenly said in a deep voice, Shiyu, can you write me this improved new pill formula? Heshi shrugged, of course. After that, she took out a blank inscribed jade slip and quickly engraved the pill formula. Although the efficacy of this kind of blood healing pill had been improved, in the cultivation world, the so-called blood healing pill was really not very useful. She was not even interested in selling it in Shengde Hall, so she might as well give it to Dean Zheng. Zheng Shouyue took over the pill formula recorded on the inscribed jade slip and hurriedly left the room. The students present were still a little lost looking at Dean Zheng leaving in a hurry. Is this the same Dean Zheng that we have been imagining? Heshi was also a little surprised. She didn't know what Dean Zheng was going to do with that pill formula, but it had nothing to do with her. As she turned around and was about to leave, she was grabbed by Jia Shujie. Shiyu, no, Senior Shi, can you teach me about pill refining? No, can you accept me as an apprentice? As long as you can let me learn pill refining with you, I can do anything for you. Heshi's mouth twitched and she said resolutely, I refuse. Then she disappeared in place. Jia Shujie looked dejectedly at the hands that were holding the corners of her clothes just now, but they were nothing. He immediately looked depressed. Then he immediately clenched his fist and said, no, I must learn pill refining from Senior Shi. The young man on the side was holding the 2 blood healing pills in his hand with a look of fascination. Chapter 12:13. Existing Pill Formula Elder Council. At this time, the main hall of the Elder Council was almost occupied by the deans and elders of each branch. In addition to these elders, there were also Lu Jishi, the president of the Academy Student Council, and Jiang Zhongqing, the new deputy president. Deputy Dean Jiang, who was sitting at the top, held the pill formula copied by hand, and his expression became more and more solemn. He looked at Zheng Shouyue with scorching eyes. Dean Zheng, are you sure this pill formula was improved by Shiyu? It can refine a more effective blood-healing pill? Zheng Shuyue stood up and nodded without hesitation. This is the pill formula that I watched Shiyu change with my own eyes. After I got the pill formula and the refining method, I tried it myself. This is the medicinal pill I refined. Deputy Dean Jiang took the medicinal pill that Zheng Shuyue handed over. After confirming the efficacy, his face also showed an excited look. The new pill formula, which hasn't appeared in Miluo continent for thousands of years, has now been developed by our students at Miracle Healer Academy. If this story spreads out, then our Miracle Healer Academy's reputation will rise again. Great, Shuyue, you have done a great job in this matter. That student named Shiyu, I will award him with generous points, and I will also commend him in the entire academy. Wait a minute. Before Deputy Dean Jiang's words were finished, Jiang Zhongqing, who was sitting beside Lu Zhishi, suddenly stood up and said, Dean Jiang, I think we shouldn't proceed Shiyu's commendation. About this new pill formula, we must not claim that it is developed by our academy. Otherwise, our Miracle Healer Academy will become the laughingstock of the entire Miluo continent. Deputy Dean Jiang stopped and said with annoyance, What do you mean by that? Zheng Shuyue said even more angrily, I know that your Academy Student Council has some conflicts with Shiyu, but isn't it too much to cover up Shiyu's achievements like this? Jiang Zhongqing smiled and said, Dean Jiang and Dean Zheng, please calm down, I have a basis for saying this. Because the pill formula of this blood-healing pill is not improved by Shiyu at all, it has originally existed. Our president has seen this pill formula a few years ago, but because blood-healing pills are useless for martial artists, refining them is useless, so it has not been publicized. He said and sneered, I didn't expect that Shiyu was so despicable and shameless. She saw this pill formula, but she isn't humble like our president. Instead, he took this pill formula for his own. If we really publicize this pill formula and are found out that Shiyu plagiarized other people's pill formula, wouldn't it put shame on our Miracle Healer Academy? What? You saw this pill formula a few years ago? Deputy Dean Jiang looked at Lu Zhishi. Is this true? Lu Zhishi smiled and stood up and said, It's true. There is an ancient book in our Doctors Association that records this pill formula. If Jiang Dean doesn't believe it, you can ask my father. On this matter, Zhishi will never dare to lie. Deputy Dean Jiang suddenly lost his enthusiasm when he heard the words. The great achievement had vanished in the blink of an eye. Just as Jiang Zhongqing said, if this matter was found out after being publicized, how shameful the Miracle Healer Academy would be. Thinking of this, he glared at Zheng Shuyue angrily and left. When the other deans and elders saw that the matter had ended hastily, they all gloated over the misfortune, and laughed at Zheng Shuyue and hurried away. Chapter 12-14. Sore spot. Zheng Shuyue stood there with an ashen face, unable to recover from the sudden blow. Jiang Zhongqing walked up to him and sneered, Dean Zheng, you handed in this pill formula today because you want to re-enter the power center of Miracle Healer Academy? It's a pity that you don't know the person well and mistakenly thought he is talented. Your dream has vanished as well, ha! Zheng Shuyue stared at Jiang Zhongqing coldly, and he suddenly released the spirit pressure. Jiang Zhongqing's face turned pale, staggered back a few steps and spouted blood. At this moment, the arrogance on his face turned into fear with a hint of resentment in it. He glared at the unremarkable old man in front of him. He had just forgotten that this old man, who looked lousy, was a master at the nascent soul later stage. How could he provoke casually? At this moment, Lu Zhishi slowly stepped forward and said to Zheng Shuyue, Dean Zheng, my subordinate is ignorant, please don't be bothered by him. Zheng Shuyue frowned and stared at Lu Zhishi coldly. Did you really see that pill formula in any ancient book? Lu Zhishi smiled. Of course it's true. Telling this kind of lie will not benefit Zhishi at all. If anyone checks it, wouldn't my lie be exposed? If Dean Zheng still doesn't believe it, Zhishi will let father immediately send the ancient book through black market. Zheng Shuyue's face was gloomy and uncertain. He never believed that Shiyu made such changes because he had seen the pill formula. He was clearly familiar with the various attributes of the blood-healing pill formula, And all the reasoning processes were well-founded and convincing. How could this be a lie? A hint of smugness flashed in Lu Zhishi's eyes. She greeted Jiang Zhongqing to go out. However, before they reached the door, Zheng Shouyue's cold voice suddenly came from behind. Lu Zhishi, you said you have seen pill formula, such a novel pill formula. Have you really never tried refining it once? Lu Zhishi paused slightly. The light in her eyes dimmed for a while, then she turned around and smiled and said, "It's just a mere blood-healing pill. Isn't it normal that I didn't think about refining it?" Zheng Shouyue sneered. Did you never think about refining, or did you fail refining it? Lu Zhishi's face changed slightly. What does Dean Zheng mean? Zheng Shouyue laughed. His eyes were full of contempt. You know what it means the best. With Shi Yu's ability, do you think that if you stop him this time, he won't be able to become famous? He can improve a kind of medicinal pills, so he can also improve the second and third. As for you, Fairy Zhishi, even if the ancient books in your hand really have various pill formulas, you must be able to refine them first. After speaking, Zheng Shouyue saw that Lu Zhishi's face turned gloomy. Obviously, he hit his sore spot. He couldn't help being relieved for a while. The depression just now disappeared without a trace, and he left the Elder Council with a big laugh. Zheng Shouyue also suddenly remembered. If there is no pill refining method mentioned by Shi Yu, even if I obtain the pill formula, I will not be able to refine it at all. Therefore, Lu Zhishi may have pill formula in her hands, but she is absolutely lying when she said that she didn't think of refining it. And Shi Yu's improvement of pill formula is definitely based on his own real talent. My student has amazing abilities. There will be times when you, Lu Zhishi, will be jealous and go crazy in the future. Chapter 12-15. Immortal Mission Hall. The Mission Release Center of Miracle Healer Academy was an ancient building with carved beams and paintings. From the outside, the area of this ancient building was not large, but when one entered the lobby, he could feel the incomparable spaciousness. It was not a problem to keep thousands of people. Zhang Yi grabbed his brother Zhang Chong's sleeve and stood nervously in front of the ancient building. He looked up and saw the plaque with the words, Immortal Mission Hall, written on it. Brother, my cultivation base is only at the meridian stage, and I haven't actually fought for many years. Are we really taking a mission? Zhang Chong no longer had the decadence on his face at this time. Hearing that, he reached out and stroked his brother's head with a smile. What are you afraid of? Brother will definitely earn points for you. Because of Zheng Shouyue's protection, Zhang Chong was not punished too severely, only his points were deducted completely. However, because of his leak, Kai Yu was sent to the Spirit Extinct Valley, which ruined his life. Zhang Chong still felt extremely guilty. He had given up hope for his future, but he must give his younger brother a better future. Because Zhang Yi had been missing for several years, his cultivation has not improved, and he had no points. It was almost impossible for him to improve in Huang Medical Branch. The younger brother had such a good talent in beast taming, how could Zhang Chong let him waste his whole life? So even if he had lost hope for his own future, he must let his younger brother live a good life. In Miracle Healer Academy, one could do nothing without points. If one wanted to earn points quickly, the best way was to take a mission at Immortal Mission Hall. Zhang Chong dragged his younger brother into the Immortal Mission Hall, and the noisy atmosphere came at them. There were countless students and elders coming and going here every day. Some who issue missions and some who accepted the missions. The mission level of Immortal Mission Hall was divided into 8 levels, Heaven Earth Xian Huang Yu Zhou Huang, which correspond to the names of the branches in the Miracle Healer Academy. The missions of each level would be projected on the bulletin board in detail so that people could view and accept. Of course, Immortal Mission Hall also had higher level missions, but only elders or those with a certain level of points could accept them. They wouldn't be posted publicly in the lobby either. The students who stood in front of each bulletin board and checked the missions were very distinct. In particular, students in the 4 upper courtyards generally wouldn't accept missions above Huang level, and students in the 4 lower courtyards did not dare to go to the bulletin boards of the first 4 levels. Therefore, when Zhang Chong took his younger brother to the Huang level mission bulletin board, everyone looked at him with curiosity and contempt. Isn't this Zhang Chong? Have you forgotten that you are no longer a student of the Heaven Medical Branch? Why are you at the bulletin board of our 4 upper courtyards? Zhang Yi was frightened by the unkind laughter. He could not wait to escape from here immediately. Zhang Chong said solemnly with a cold face, "Is there a rule in Immortal Mission Hall that people from the 4 lower courtyards cannot accept Huang-level missions?" After he finished speaking, he dragged Zhang Yijing to the bulletin board. After looking at it for a while, he immediately found a moderately difficult and suitable task. Zhang Chong came to the officer with the inscribed jade slip and said, "Hi, this is my inscribed jade slip. I want to take the mission of capturing the rank 3 magical beast of the Huang level. Please register it for me." The steward glanced lazily at Zhang Chong. Instead of picking up the inscribed jade slip in his hand, he sneered, "You're from the Huang medical branch? Are you sure you want to take the Huang level mission? You should see clearly. This is to catch the rank 3 magical beast, not kill the rank 3 magical beast, and this magical beast often stays in a group. Don't blame me if you die in the mission." Chapter 12:16. Make things difficult. Zhang Chong's face turned gloomy. He wanted to refute this officer, but he had to endure it and said, "I know the danger of the mission, but I still want to accept this mission. Please help, Officer Zhang, we want to take this mission too. Please register for us." Zhang Chong was interrupted before he could finish his words. A student dressed in Earth Medical Branch gave Zhang Chong a provocative look and handed over his inscribed jade slip. The officer's face was immediately filled with a smile. He took the inscribed jade slip from the student without hesitation and made the registration. Zhang Chong took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. "Officer Zhang, please help me. Go away, don't bother me." Officer Zhang waved his hand impatiently. "This mission quota is full, you find another mission." Each mission had an upper limit of simultaneous acceptance. Some were 1, and some were a few. Once the amount was filled, the mission would be removed from the board. Zhang Chong glared angrily. "Officer Zhang, I clearly asked for registration first." The officer sneered. Without even looking at him, he handed the registered inscribed jade slip to the student of the Earth Medical Branch. The student of Earth Medical Branch took the inscribed jade slip and smiled smugly at Zhang Chong. "You should know your limit. If I were from the Huang Medical Branch, I would be embarrassed to come to Immortal Mission Hall, but you even dare to take a Huang-level mission. Stop kidding us. You." Zhang Chong wanted to get angry, but he was pulled by Zhang Yi's face was flushed, and he said with pleading in his eyes, "Brother, if you fight in Immortal Mission Hall, you will be punished severely. Forget it, brother, let's go." Zhang Chong's hands loosened and clenched several times before suppressing the anger in his heart. "Little E, don't worry. If we can't take this mission, we'll change another mission." After speaking, Zhang Chong took Zhang Yi back to the bulletin board. However, the same scene was repeated again. Zhang Chong asked the officer to register with the inscribed jade slip, but the officer always ignored him. If other students from the 4 upper courtyards came to register, he greeted them with a smile. Zhang Chong repeated it several times, and it was the same. The mission he chose would be taken every time. He finally knew that these people were indeed deliberately making things difficult for him and would never let him take the mission. "Mr. Jiang, Immortal Mission Hall has stipulated that anyone can accept mission of all levels. You have violated the regulations of the Immortal Mission Hall. Aren't you afraid that I report this to the Elder Council?" Haha. Officer Jiang laughed loudly when he heard the words. "Do you think a trash from Huang Medical Branch can speak to the Elder Council? We won't let you accept the missions of the 4 upper courtyards for your own good. You have crossed the line yourself, so don't blame us for bullying you." Zhang Chong's eyes were filled with anger, and his body trembled slightly. "Don't go too far, I can choose what level of mission to take. Although I'm in the Huang Medical Branch, I have the ability to take the mission of the 4 upper courtyards. Why can't I take it? Whoever has the strength will take the mission. Isn't this the rule of the Immortal Mission Hall?" Director Jiang smiled mockingly and said lightly, Okay, you want to take the 4 upper courtyards mission, right? Now there are only heaven-level missions left. Do you want to take it? Zhang Chong was speechless for a while. Chapter 12:17, Heaven-level mission, heaven-level quest. Even if he used to be in Heaven Medical Branch, he would not dare to accept it randomly. That was a mission with a danger level so high that it might kill him. Officer Zhang and a few students from Heaven and Earth Medical Branch suddenly laughed out loud. Didn't you arrogantly say that whoever has the strength can take the mission? Why are you scared now? Zhang Chang's face flushed red. He was about to rush forward to say that he wanted to take the mission, but was immediately pulled by someone. A young man from the Xian Medical Branch shook his head at Zhang Chong and said, "Zhang Chong, don't be impulsive. You can simply take heaven-level mission." This young man had been helped by Zhang Chong, so now he kindly reminded him. The young man vaguely pointed to a tall and slender man not far away and said in a low voice, "See that? Do you remember who that person is? Do you want to randomly accept a mission and end up like him?" Zhang Chang's eyes followed the young man's fingers, and he quickly saw who the person was. He trembled. All his anger turned into fear. He no longer dared to say that he was going to accept heaven-level mission. Officer Jiang and the students had anticipated that Zhang Chong would chicken out, so they looked at each other, laughed, and left. No one cared about Zhang Chong anymore. Zhang Yi also breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing that his brother kept looking at the man not far away, he couldn't help but wonder, "Brother, who is that person? Do you know him?" Zhang Chong's brows twitched. He said hoarsely after a while, "His name is Jin Xiu. He used to be the president of the Academy Student Council." "What?" Zhang Yi exclaimed. Even though he had been locked in a small courtyard, he knew what kind of existence the president of the Academy Student Council was, but why? This person had a handsome appearance, sharp and calm eyes, but his spiritual power fluctuations are chaotic and weak. His cultivation is clearly worse than mine. How can such a person become the president of the Academy Student Council? Zhang Chong sighed and said in a low voice, "When Jin Xiu was the president, I hadn't joined the Academy Student Council, but I also knew that he was extremely talented and had the best strength. At that time, even Lu Zhishi, the current president, would be overshadowed by his talents. However, an accident happened 3 years ago." "What accident?" Jin Xiu took on a heaven-level mission, which was the most difficult one. No one could finish the mission. However, everyone thought that if it was Jin Xiu, he would definitely accomplish the mission. But in the end, he failed. Not only did he fail, but Jin Xiu's confidants, the former Academy Student Council's officers, were killed and injured more than half. He himself was also seriously injured, and his cultivation had plummeted to the foundation establishment stage. In this way, he is completely useless. Zhang Yi exclaimed and said in disbelief, "How could it be like this? No one knows what happened in that mission." Zhang Chong shook his head and said, "Miracle Healer Academy is a place where the strong prey on the weak and respect the strength. Jin Xiu's cultivation has dropped greatly, and he almost has no chance of advancing to the nascent soul stage in his life, so he had been dismissed from the president of the Academy Student Council. He was also transferred to the Huang Medical Branch. Jin Xiu can be considered a man of perseverance. In just over 2 years, he returned from the foundation establishment stage to the meridian stage intermediate stage, but, sigh, a good genius is ruined after all." Chapter 12:18. Ungrateful. After Zhang Chong said this, he was a little dispirited. He took Zhang Yi to accept 2U level missions and was about to leave. Quests down the 4th level earn very few points and are often tedious, taking a lot of work instead. This was not the way Zhang Chong hoped to earn points, but he had no other way. When Zhang Chong was about to leave, a group of people was about to come into the Immortal Mission Hall. Zhang Chong used to be from the Heaven Medical Branch, so he naturally knew who these people were. The man in the middle of the gold core stage, who looked 20 years old, was called Tu Yonghao. Relying on his elder, who was an elder in the Miracle Healer Academy, and his talent, he had always been arrogant and domineering. So, Zhang Chong disliked him very much. When Tu Yonghao passed by Zhang Chong, he glanced at him disdainfully, but he ignored him. Instead, he walked straight past Jin Ziyu and bumped him heavily. This bump used spiritual power, so Jin Ziyu stumbled for a while. Tu Yonghao pretended to have just discovered it, and he turned around and exaggeratedly shouted, "Oh, I wonder who did I bump into? It turns out to be President Jin. Did I President Jin just now? After all, President Jin only has so much cultivation now." Halfway through, he suddenly paused and pretended to slap his face. He laughed. "No, please forgive my poor memory. I forgot that Jin Ziyu, you are no longer the president. How arrogant were you back then, President Jin? It was really hard to just see your face." Ha! Jin Ziyu slowly stood up straight. There was no emotional fluctuation on his handsome face, but his eyes were deep and scary. When Tu Yonghao was being stared like this, he immediately felt horrified. After realizing that he was afraid of a foundation establishment stage trash, he said in anger, "Jin Ziyu, what is that gaze? Don't forget that you are just a trash in the Huang medical branch. Do you still think you are the president of the Academy Student Council?" As he said, he stepped forward and released spirit pressure. Zhang Chong frowned as he watched from the side. Thinking that someone like Jin Ziyu had been reduced to the current field, he felt unbearable in his heart. However, he was also in a difficult situation now. How could he still meddle in others' business? However, just as Tu Yonghao was about to approach Jin Ziyu, 3 people quickly ran out of the crowd to block in front of Jin Ziyu. One of them, a burly man, stopped in front of Jin Ziyu and said angrily to Tu Yonghao, "Tu Yonghao, what are you doing? In front of so many people, are you going to bully boss in the Immortal Mission Hall?" Zhang Chong was stunned to see that the burly man's cultivation was at the gold core early stage while the other 2 were also at the peak of the meridian stage. But they were all wearing Huang Medical Branch's clothing. As soon as Tu Yonghao saw the burly man, he immediately squinted and sneered, "Qian Dezhuang, I didn't expect you to be so committed to Jin Ziyu. He is only at the meridian stage now, but you are still willing to be his dog. Ha, Qian Dezhuang, are you born to be cheap? Or did you forget how you got transferred away from the Heaven Medical Branch?" When the man named Qian Dezhuang heard the words, he cursed angrily, "Tu Yonghao, I'm not an ungrateful dog like you. Did you forget that boss saved you once? If it weren't for him, do you think you can live until today? If I knew you are such an ungrateful animal, I should have let you die in that magical beast forest." Chapter 12:19. Kowtow 3 times. Qian Dezhuang's words made Tu Yonghao's face turn green and white. His cold and resentful eyes shifted from Qian Dezhuang to Jin Ziyu, then he gritted his teeth and said, "Bah, what savior? If it weren't for you, Jin Ziyu, I would have been the backbone of the Academy Student Council now. If it weren't for you, I will be expelled from the Academy Student Council and I will have no improvement in cultivation that I'm almost kicked out of Heaven Medical Branch." The more Tu Yonghao said, the more angry he became. "When you were the president, I served you like my master, but what did you do? You just gave the position of the deputy president to someone else in a blink of an eye. What's the result? The person you were looking for didn't die in that heaven-level mission, and you yourself fell to a miserable end. Jin Ziyu, let me tell you, this is your retribution." Having said that, Tu Yonghao walked in front of Jin Ziyu in a few steps, and the people behind him immediately surrounded Jin Ziyu and Qian Dezhuang at his signal. Jin Ziyu's eyes were cold, and he said in a deep voice, "What do you want to do?" "What do I want to do?" Tu Yonghao laughed. "What? Are you afraid now? You want me to let you go? Okay, if you Jin Ziyu kneel down and kowtow 3 times, I'll let you go. How about that?" Before Jin Ziyu said anything, Qian Dezhuang was already furious. He pulled Jin Ziyu behind him. "Tu Yonghao, you dare." Tu Yonghao laughed even more wildly. "Want to try if I dare?" With that said, he turned his gaze to Jin Ziyu. "If you don't kowtow to me, it will be the dogs around you who will suffer." As soon as he said that, the students who surrounded Jin Ziyu got a signal from Tu Yonghao and attacked. The students in Xianlifang who were taking the missions all stopped their business and looked here. Some people resented Tu Yonghao's arrogance, but no one dared to go against Tu Yonghao. Although Tu Yonghao's grades in Heaven Medical Branch can only be at the bottom, he has an uncle who is an elder, and some students in Miracle Healer Academy are willing to be his thugs. If someone stood up for Tu Yonghao and offended Jin Ze Yuqiang, his future would be difficult. The officer of the Immortal Mission Hall also knew that it was wrong to fight here, but he could only turn a blind eye to it. Most people under Tu Yonghao were from the Earth Medical Branch, and there were also 2 elites from the Heaven Medical Branch. Each of them was at the Gold Core stage. How could Jin Ziyu and his subordinates be their opponents? Qian Dezhuang, who had been trying his best to protect Jin Ziyu, was kicked in the abdomen, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The other 2 were also kicked onto the ground. Their faces were pale, and their bodies twitched in pain. Tu Yonghao raised the sword in his hand and gestured it on Qian Dezhuang's body. Seeing Jin Ziyu's tense look, he immediately laughed and said, "Don't worry, I won't kill people in the Immortal Mission Hall. But well, it's just a trash of the Huang Medical Branch. If I abolish his cultivation a little, no one will question me, right? Jin Ziyu, are you kowtowing or not?" Jin Ziyu took a deep breath. His body was stretched straight from the humiliation, and his hands were clenched into fists. Blood dripped from his fingers. However, when he closed his eyes and opened them again, his eyes were already deep and clear. Chapter 12:20. Get out of the way. Jin Ziyu bent his knees and knelt to the ground with a thud. Then he said slowly, "Please, let Dezhuang and the others go." Ha! Tu Yonghao's wild and unbridled laughter echoed in the Immortal Mission Hall. Okay. Jin Ziyu, you have such a day too? However, I remember I said that you have to kneel down and kowtow 3 times. You have just knelt down. Do you think that's enough? Jin Ziyu's lips trembled slightly. When he was about to kneel down, Tu Yonghao, who was stepped on by Qian Dezhuang, suddenly pounced toward Tu Yonghao furiously. "Bastard, I'll kill you." But how could Qian Dezhuang compete with Tu Yonghao with his cultivation? He just rushed in front of Tu Yonghao, and he was kicked away by him. The huge body flew straight in the direction of the gate enchantment. The momentum was so fierce that all the onlookers evaded in a panic. Seeing that Qian Dezhuang's body was about to fly out of the gate enchantment, a young man slowly appeared in the center of the gate. When Qian Dezhuang's body was about to collide with the young man, a pair of slender hands stretched out, caught him easily and put him on the ground. Qian Dezhuang spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell in front of the young man with a weak breath. He seemed to be seriously injured, but his life was saved. The young man didn't seem to see the strong man who fell in front of him at all, and he just walked past him and went toward the direction of the heaven-level mission area. In the hall of Immortal Mission Hall, it fell into complete silence. All eyes were on the young man. He wasn't tall and even a little thin, but his figure was slim, giving people an infatuation beauty. That face was as bright as the bright moon, as bright as a star. The lights in Immortal Mission Hall hit his face, making his face look like picturesque. His skin was as smooth as a cultivated white jade, and his long eyelashes drooped slightly, half covering those twinkling phoenix eyes. The young man walked slowly in the hall with seemingly no spiritual power fluctuation. He was at the foundation establishment stage at a glance. But no one dared to underestimate him. Even the students of Heaven Medical Branch were silent when they saw him. They kept quiet and looked away to avoid provoking him. The young man seemed to be the focus of everyone, but he wasn't bothered by the attention. He walked straight to the direction of the heaven-level mission area, but he soon found that the road ahead was blocked by Tu Yonghao's people who surrounded Jin Ziyu. The young man raised his long eyelashes, glanced at Tu Yonghao with cold gaze and said coldly, "Get out of the way." Tu Yonghao's scorching eyes glanced at the young man, then he trembled and stepped back. But after taking a step back, he suddenly woke up and said angrily, "Shiyu, are you commanding me?" That's right, the young man who just entered Immortal Mission Hall was naturally Heshi. She wanted to enter the enchantment, read more books, and study pill refining and array, but in this Miracle Healer Academy, these all require crystal stones, So she chose the easiest way and ran to Immortal Mission Hall to take the highest level mission and earn crystal stones in the fastest way. As for the disputes between others in Immortal Mission Hall, she had no interest in it. However, whoever stood in front of her, don't blame her for being rude. Chapter 12:21. Troublemaker Hashi sneered at the man in the gold core stage in front of him, and he said slowly, "Why? Don't want to make way? You want to taste the feeling of being thrown out? Or, you really want me to slice open your throat?" Hashi never forgets it. Maybe she didn't recognize him when she saw Tu Yonghao, but after searching in her memory, she quickly remembered it. Isn't he the gold core stage student who provoked her and didn't let me sit down in the Heaven Medical branch? It seemed that he didn't learn from the previous lesson. From Hashi's right wrist, a purple vine flew out quietly and swayed slightly in the air, but her face was full of threatening half-smile. Tu Yonghao only felt a burst of anger in his heart, but when he saw the young man's cold eyes and the purple vine, his original anger turned into panic. The students who were originally instructed by Tu Yonghao all backed away with disheartened faces. They were unwilling to provoke the troublemaker, Shiyu. Yeah, the person in front of him was Shiyu. Although she was also a student of Huang Medical Branch, Shiyu was not expelled. She abandoned Heaven Medical Branch and ran to Huang Medical Branch. Many people saw Dean Li Qingchuan trying his best to keep her, but he was rejected by Shiyu. Shiyu's strength shocked everyone even more. Even though she was only at the Foundation Establishment stage, she defeated Feng Yunqing at the Gold Core Stage Intermediate stage, and she was able to compete with rank 7 magical beast in Elusive Forest. In addition to those who offended and framed Shiyu at the beginning, Chen Jianqing and Feng Yunqing were dead. Caillou was expelled to Spirit Extinct Valley for his lifetime. Even Elder Qin and Elder Fu, one was kicked out of the Miracle Healer Academy and one was demoted to guard the equipment warehouse. Everyone who offended Shiyu didn't end well, so how could they not be fearful of her? Tu Yonghao felt the atmosphere around him. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only obediently back away under Shiyu's sneering gaze. There was no obstacle in front of Hashi. She went straight to the heaven-level mission bulletin board. After looking around, she found that there was still a mission with a very high level of difficulty, collecting snow Ganoderma grass. She didn't even think about it before walking to the officer counter. "I want to take the heaven-level mission to collect snow Ganoderma grass. Please help me register." As Hashi said, she took out her inscribed jade slip and handed it to the officer of the heaven-level mission area. However, after she handed out her hand for a long time, the officer looked at her in a dazed. He didn't come back to his senses for a long time. Hashi frowned and said displeasedly, "Did you hear me? Brother Shiyu." Before the officer could answer, a boy's delighted voice came from her ears. Hashi turned around and met Zhang Yijing's adoring eyes, and she couldn't help but smile. "Little E, why are you here?" Zhang Yi grabbed Zhang Chong and came to Hashi. "Brother Shiyu, this is my brother Zhang Chong. My brother and I came here to take over the task." Hashi glanced at Zhang Chong. He immediately lowered his head in shame, not knowing how to place his hands and feet in embarrassment. For Shiyu, Zhang Chong couldn't help but feel guilty. He had never done anything bad in his life, but he did something against his conscience on this young man. Even if it was made up later, there was no way to offset the unease and regret. Chapter 12:22. Team mission. Of course, Hashi recognized Zhang Chong, but she didn't have much anger. After all, Zhang Chong was just a pawn that was used by others. She just nodded slightly at Zhang Chong. For Zhang Yi's sake, Hashi would not blame him. Zhang Chong felt relieved when he saw the young man's natural smile. Hashi's attention had turned to the mission. Zhang Yi saw this, and he remembered how these people made things difficult for him and his brother just now. He complained furiously, "Brother Shiyu, they are too bad. Just now my brother and I came to accept the mission. They said that the students of Huang Medical Branch are only worthy of receiving the Huang-level missions. No one wanted to process our request to accept the 4 upper-level missions, and they even ridiculed us." Zhang Chong was a little stunned. My younger brother, who was still afraid of causing trouble, actually complained to Shiyu with righteous indignation. Moreover, my younger brother looks at Shiyu with confidence as if he is not worried that Shiyu will be in trouble. Is this Shiyu really so powerful? Oh! Hashi responded with a slightly upturned voice as if mocking and sneering. She glanced at the officer. I'm a student of the Huang medical branch, so I can't take on the heaven-level mission, is that right? No. Absolutely not. The officer in charge of the heaven-level missions suddenly recovered his sense. His face turned pale, and he immediately denied it. Accepting missions is the freedom of every student. We will never dare to change the rules without authorization. It's just what? Hashi raised her eyebrow. Is there any problem with me taking this mission? No problem. The officer shook his head again and again, then he reminded cautiously, it's just that the heaven-level missions are very dangerous. In order to ensure the safety of the students, the Academy has stipulated the conditions for accepting the heaven-level missions. That is, the number of people involved must be more than 10 to avoid too many casualties in the mission. Student Shi, if you take the mission now, you have to gather 10 people. Only then we can initiate the teleportation array to send you guys to the mission location. This regulation was understandable. After all, the safety of students was still very important to Miracle Healer Academy. For example, in this mission to collect snow Ganoderma grass, the snow Ganoderma grass was only rank 5, but it belonged to a kind of magical beast companion grass. Generally, there will be rank 6 magical beast next to the snow Ganoderma grass, and more than one. Rank 6 magical beast, even the martial artists of nascent soul stage had some difficulty to deal with it, let alone gold core stage students. It was just this rule that stumped Hashi. She hadn't been in the academy for long, so she had just known a few people. Even if Zhang Yi, Zhang Chong, and Wei Chengyuan were included, there were only 4. Moreover, Wei Chengyuan had been busy arranging the diagnosis and treatment of the mysterious man recently. It was even a problem to see him. Zhang Yi said without hesitation, Brother Shiyu, can my brother and I also participate? The corner of Zhang Chong's mouth twitched. My brother decided for me without even asking me? He suddenly felt that his position in his younger brother's mind had been left far behind by Shiyu. Holding the inscribed jade slip, Hashi said helplessly, even so, there are only 3 of us. Zhang Yi looked around and asked in a clear voice, any of you willing to do this heaven-level mission with us? Chapter 12:23. 3 more the students in the Immortal Mission Hall shook their heads one after another, secretly laughing at Zhang Yi for being ignorant. He didn't understand the horror of the heaven-level mission at all. However, Shiyu was there, so they didn't dare to say bad words. They just took a step back, expressing their unwillingness. Zhang Yi puffed up his cheeks depressedly. These people are really stupid. Brother Shiyu is so powerful he will definitely be able to complete the heaven-level mission. By then, won't they get a lot of points? You will regret missing such a good opportunity in vain. Suddenly, Zhang Yi's eyes fell on Jin Ziyu. He suddenly remembered his brother saying that Jin Ziyu used to be so powerful. Moreover, when they were bullied by Tu Yonghao and the others, they didn't give in, which made Zhang Yi both sympathize and admire them. He ran in front of Jin Ziyu and said with shining eyes, would you like to join us in the heaven-level mission? Jin Ziyu was stunned for a moment. The boy's eyes were clear and his expression sincere. He didn't mean to ridicule him at all. Jin Ziyu raised his head and looked at the mission of collecting snow Ganoderma grass. That is snow Ganoderma grass. The originally dark and deep eyes fluctuated for a while, and there seemed to be a trace of emotion on the calm and unwavering face. However, the surrounding discussions, especially Tu Yonghao's laughter, just came into his ears. Haha, you actually asked Jin Ziyu to join the team? I advise you to change someone else. Otherwise, I don't know how miserable you will be during the mission. Jin Ziyu's eyes darkened. He looked at Zhang Yi and said softly, you have seen it. My current cultivation is not stable even in the meridian stage intermediate stage. If I follow you, I will only drag you down. Zhang Yi was stunned when he heard the words, and he immediately turned his inquiring eyes to Heshi. Heshi glanced at Jin Zhu and raised his eyebrows. How many people do you have? Jin Zhu was stunned for a moment. Before he could speak, a man beside him immediately said, "The three of us must follow boss to protect him." 3 plus Jin Zhu, that's 4? Great, so there are 7. Heshi nodded happily. Okay, little E, convince them to join in. Jin Zhu's eyes flickered, and he blurted out, "Didn't you see it? Our cultivation is only meridian stage, and De Zhuang is seriously injured. He can't recover in a short time." Heshi glanced at the muscular man who was staggering back from the door, then she smirked. "It doesn't matter. He just has to come. As for the injury, it's just a small problem. It will definitely be cured before departing." Zhang Yi pulled his eyes back from Heshi, looking at Jin Zhu with a proud expression of, "Look, my brother Shiyu is so cool, handsome, and arrogant. Brother Jin, can you join us? Brother Shiyu is very powerful. As long as he is there, we will definitely be able to complete the mission." Jin Zhu looked stunned, stood for a long time, finally nodded and said, "Okay, we join. 7 people, 3 more." Heshi touched her chin with a headache. She glanced across the faces of everyone on the field. She was thinking whether to feed someone with the 100-day death powder and threaten them to sign up first. The students present felt immense stress being glanced by Heshi. They took a few steps back in fear. Chapter 12:24, Bunch of Trash, Say. "Senior Shiyu, can I join too?" A pale young man walked out of the crowd. Heshi quickly recognized the young man. He was from the Huang medical branch too, and he was an acquaintance. It was the young man who helped her process the herbs when she was refining the blood-healing pill some time ago. The young man's face was still pale at this time. He walked up to Heshi anxiously, lowered his head and said, "Senior Shiyu, my name is Fang Yuan. My 2 friends and I are willing to join, but our cultivation is only at the meridian stage later stage. Moreover, except from refining some low-grade medicinal pills, we can't do anything else. Senior Shi, can we join too?" Heshi looked at the 2 people behind. Indeed, their cultivation and their roots were only average. However, she didn't care about their cultivation at all because she could complete the mission on her own. Now all she lacked is the number of people. So she smiled, "Okay, welcome to join." Fang Fun was stunned for a moment, then there was a hint of ecstasy in his eyes. But Fang Yuan's friend stepped forward and pulled him, then they said to Heshi anxiously, "Say, Senior Shiyu, we can join, but if we can survive, can you promise us one thing?" "Say it." Fang Yuan had an anxious look on his face. He wanted to pull his friend back, but the young man's expression was firm, and he was less nervous. He said, "Senior Shiyu, Fang Yuan has blood deficiency since young. No matter what medicine he takes, it is useless. The blood-healing pill can relieve the pain, but it increases the fire poison in his body. Senior Shiyu, I heard that your medical skills are very high. Can you cure Fang Yuan's illness?" "Blood deficiency?" Heshi smiled and said without hesitation, "Okay, no problem." Without a trace of hesitation, she promised decisively. Fang Yuan's body trembled heavily, and tears were rolling in his eyes. "Senior Shiyu, can my illness really be cured?" Before Heshi could speak, Zhang Yi rushed over and boasted, "Student Fang, don't worry. Brother Shiyu's medical skills are amazing. My illness is much weirder than yours, but Brother Shiyu only uses half a month to cure it. Your blood deficiency is not a terminal illness, so you must be fine." Fang Yuan nodded heavily when he heard the words. His friends also looked joyful. Qian Dezhuang and others on the side also heard Heshi's conversation. Qian Dezhuang couldn't help but grab Jin Ziyu's hand and said in a trembling voice, "Boss, did you hear that? They said that Shiyu's medical skills are very high." Jin Ziyu's eyes lit up, but then dimmed again. A bitter smile emerged on his mouth. Heshi no longer hesitated and immediately submitted the inscribed jade slip to let the officer register the mission. The students on the side whispered gloatingly, "See, it's a whole team of Huang Medical Branch." If this kind of team can complete the heaven-level mission, that would be a miracle. Yeah. No matter how powerful Shiyu is, with a group of Meridian stage trash, what can he do? He will only drag himself down. Haha. Tu Yonghao looked even more sullen. He gave Jin Ziyu a cold look, waved to the person behind him and left. Chapter 12:25. Illness. The Sun Moon Mountain Range was located in the northwest of Miracle Healer Academy, not far from Miracle Healer Academy. It was covered with green spiritual plants all year round, and the spiritual power in the mountains was strong, giving birth to a lot of magical beasts. Like the magical beasts in Breaking Spirit Mountain, the magical beasts here usually didn't have intelligence. They couldn't transform into human form. Miracle Healer Academy had set up many enchantments and teleportation arrays in the Sun Moon Mountain Range for students to practice and find rare materials here. Of course, because the magical beast level in the Sun Moon Mountain Range was usually relatively high, the difficulty level of missions related to this mountain range was relatively high. The map that Heshi stole from Lu Jishi also marked the Sun Moon Mountain Range, but it wasn't in detail. It only roughly differentiated the level area of the magical beast, and it also indicated the locations where the 5th grade spiritual grass might appear. But that was already enough for Heshi. She never backed down on the matter she decided. After confirming the approximate location of the snow Ganoderma grass, she decided to set off the next day. It was just dawn. The dormitory area of Huang Medical Branch was still in complete silence. But in a dormitory in a remote area to the west, the lights were lit on amid a piercing cough. "Boss, how are you? Is it the illness again?" Qian Dezhuang, Chen Xiaofeng and the another one suddenly woke up from their sleep and rushed to Jin Ziyu's bed. Jin Ziyu's face flushed with fright, and the heartbreaking cough couldn't stop no matter what. Qian Dezhuang hurriedly took a packet of medicinal powder from the side and wanted Jin Ziyu to eat it, but Jin Ziyu knocked it away. The medicinal powder was scattered all over the place, and the powder filled the air, exuding a sweet floral fragrance. Qian Dezhuang panicked. "Boss, what are you doing?" Jin Ziyu coughed again for a while, and he spurted blood on the sheets and bedding. Qian Dezhuang and Chen Xiaofeng looked at each other with ugly expressions. However, Jin Ziyu finally recovered. His face had returned to normal, only the frightening purple was still on his lips. Chen Xiaofeng said worriedly, "Boss, if you don't take medicine, your next onset will be more serious. Moreover, that is the last package of medicine we have." There was a sneering wry smile at Jin Ziyu's mouth. "You guys really didn't find out? I have taken this medicine for so long, can it heal me? No, it will only completely destroy my body and cultivation little by little, turning me into complete trash." Qian Dezhuang and Chen Xiaofeng both showed sad expressions. In fact, how could they not know the side effects of this medicine? But if he didn't take the medicine, his illness would become more and more serious. They and Jin Ziyu were brothers who had been through life and death. Watching their boss dying little by little, the feeling couldn't even be described as burning with anxiety. Jin Ziyu's expression immediately regained his composure. He glanced out the window, and a faint light came in through the window. "Dezhuang, is your injury really healed?" Qian Dezhuang immediately patted his chest when he heard the words. He said with a face full of surprise, "Yeah, I'm fully recovered. Hey boss, this kid named Shiyu really has some skills. Previously, if I suffered such an injury, I need at least 8 days to recover. But after taking his medicine, I actually recover in 1 day. Not only that, I also feel that my spiritual power seems to become more pure and solid." Chapter 12:26. Ignorant Jin Ziyu's brows moved slightly, and he murmured, "Shiyu." Chen Xiaofeng reached out and grabbed the window edge of the upper bunk, and he looked at Jin Ziyu nervously. "Boss, do you think Shiyu's medical skills are really that high? If he can cure your disease, then..." Qian Dezhuang's eyes lit up, and he nodded again and again. "Boss, I think so too. As long as Shiyu can cure your disease, even if he let us be his servant for a lifetime, we will do it." Jin Ziyu shook his head with a wry smile. Don't forget who caused my injury. No matter how good Shiyu is, can he be better than that person? Can he heal the internal injuries he left behind? The dark and deep eyes slowly shrouded the numbness of despair and the unwillingness of resentment. He clenched his teeth tightly as if he wanted to tear something alive. However, everything was like an ever-ending dark night. There was no light of hope at all. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Jin Ziyu closed his eyes. His voice was indescribably desolate. Forget it, this time we only need to protect ourselves and get a snow Ganoderma grass. That's enough. Chen Xiaofeng's heart shuddered when he heard the words. His eyes were hot and wet. He slammed the wall with one hand. He knew that boss had given up on himself. He agreed to join Shiyu's party in this heaven-level mission, mainly because they could earn more points. He didn't want to drag them down. He wanted the snow Ganoderma grass to let him advance, so he risked his life to pick it. Chen Xiaofeng's spiritual root attribute was the dual spiritual root of mutated ice and earth. Over the years, his cultivation had been stuck at the peak of meridian stage and couldn't make any progress. That was because the cultivation environment and resources of Huang Medical Branch were really poor. With snow Ganoderma grass, Chen Xiaofeng could promote to the gold core stage within half a year. But boss, is there really no cure for him? In the morning, the teleportation array to the Sun-Moon Mountain range was already crowded with people. Zhang Yi, Fang Yun and the others were waiting there early. All of them were excited. Last night, Zhang Chong watched his silly brother stay up all night. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep. Now seeing Fang Yun and his two friends, he couldn't help shaking his head helplessly and worriedly. These little guys have been in the Huang Medical Branch all the time, so they don't even know the horror of the heaven-level mission. They actually treat this mission like an outing. But think about their team, except me and that Qian Dezhuang are at the gold core stage, others are at the meridian stage. No. There is also a Shi Yu at the foundation establishment stage. How can such a party complete the heaven-level mission? It's already good that all of us don't die. Do they see the gloating look of the students around? Zhang Chong gritted his teeth and could only swear to himself that he would protect his younger brother no matter what, even sacrificing his own life. When Jin Ziyu and his three subordinates arrived, the laughter grew louder. A bunch of rubbish from Huang Medical Branch dares to challenge the heaven-level mission? They are so ignorant. Should we bet how many days they can stay in the Sun-Moon Mountain range before they run away like a dog? How many days? I think they will be able to hold on even in a few hours. Especially when they even stupidly brought Jin Ziyu. That trash can't even take care of himself. What else can he do except be a burden? Chapter 12:27. Brain is crazy. I think Shiyu has been touted too much recently that his brain is crazy. Before the person could finish speaking, he suddenly felt a pain in his left cheek. A terrifying killing intent came to him. The hair on the temple beside his left cheek fell, accompanied by hair that fell from his cheek. The man trembled. His first reaction was not surprise and anger, but the fear of being completely suppressed. Immediately afterward, everyone saw the beautiful young man toward them. The dense long eyelashes were like small fans, gently drooping and lifting. She glanced at the man whose temple hair was cut with ridicule and said with a smile, "I'm sorry, whose brain did you say is crazy? I didn't hear it clearly. Can you say it again?" The soft and slow voice was so pleasant to the ear, but it made the student step back in fear. His head was shaking anxiously and his eyes were full of fear, but he couldn't say a word for a long time. Beside the teleportation array, there was silence. Even if Heaven and Earth Medical Branch were dissatisfied with Shiyu's arrogance, no one spoke up at this time. Not only because offending Shiyu on this trivial matter was not worth it, but also because the young man exuded an unmatched king aura, which made people inexplicably fear and surrender. He looked around. Seeing that no one spoke, he waved to Zhang Yi and the others, "Let's go." The light of the teleportation array flickered and dimmed. The 10 figures disappeared without a trace in front of everyone. This time, All people breathed a sigh of relief and looked at each other for a while. They couldn't even curse. Someone couldn't help but mutter, "Why do I feel that facing Shiyu is more stressful than facing President Liu Zixi?" There were also the Academy Student Council's officers among the onlookers. Hearing this, their complexion looked ugly. Shiyu used her face slaps and strengths again and again to make the people in the Miracle Healer Academy dare not underestimate her. After they got teleported away, the people who were watching the excitement naturally retreated. However, after the crowd dispersed, a group of people quietly came to this teleportation array. Each of these people was at the level of the Gold Core stage. The young man leader even reached the Gold Core stage later stage. He looked at the center of the teleportation array with scorching eyes and sneered, "Jin Ziyu, if you have been obediently staying in Miracle Healer Academy, I really can't do anything about you. I didn't expect that you want to look for death yourself. It seems to be your destiny to die in the Sun Moon Mountain Range." A young man dressed in Heaven Medical Branch beside him said in a low voice, "Brother Wu, I heard that Jin Ziyu enters the Sun Moon Mountain Range with Shiyu. If we meet Shiyu, that Shiyu is just at the mere foundation establishment stage. Why would our brother Wu, the Gold Core stage later stage, be afraid of him?" Another man next to the young man called Brother Wu sneered, "If Shiyu doesn't meddle into our business, let him be. If he dares to stand up for Jin Ziyu, then don't blame us for being rude." Angkor sneered, "This time, no matter what, I will let that Jin Ziyu die in agony to repay the hatred for humiliating me. Let's go." After speaking, several people took out their inscribed jade slips and entered the teleportation array. Chapter 12:28. Reserved food. A white shadow flashed somewhere in the Sun Moon Mountain Range, and the 10 figures of Heshi's party appeared on the field. It was a lush jungle. Zhang Yi had lived in town since he was a child. Apart from his experience in the entrance examination, he had never seen a real jungle and wilderness. Fang Yuan and his friends were all focused on the spiritual herbs around him. Fang Yuan threw himself on the ground, stoked a green spiritual herb, and said excitedly, "Is this the Sun Moon Mountain Range? It's really like what they said, there are spiritual herbs everywhere. Look, this is the grade 1 Chiang herb, and that is the grade 1 Lingling flower. I have never seen so many herbs even in the medical field of Miracle Healer Academy. Bumpkin, do you need to make a fuss about grade 1 spiritual herbs?" Fang Yuan and his friends were amazed when a childish voice with contempt suddenly came from the side. As soon as this sound came out, 9 people all looked over. Around Shiyu, there were 4 spiritual beasts, right? A pink pig, a black magical beast dragon with the size of 2 palms, a pink fox with silver fur, and an indescribable ugly cow. Everyone present looked at these 4 little animals and couldn't even describe their feelings. But shouldn't spiritual beasts look like the domineering tiger, lion, and dragon that were kept in the spiritual beast garden in the Miracle Healer Academy? This pig, cow, etc. were in mini size. Were they still considered spiritual pets? But if they weren't spiritual pets, how could Shiyu take them out of thin air? In the audience, Zhang Yi was probably the only one who thought they were very cute. Because of his talent in animal taming, he always felt that these 4 little ones were not easy. "Brother Shiyu, are these your spiritual pets?" Heshi nodded and said helplessly, "Don't worry about them. We will do our own mission. These little guys are bored in the spirit beast space, so they have to come out for a stroll." Standing beside Jin Ziyu, Chen Xiaofeng said worriedly, "But the Sun Moon Mountain Range is very dangerous. Shiyu, do you spiritual beasts have the ability to protect themselves? We don't have the ability to save them." Chen Xiaofeng's good-hearted worries were exchanged for the disdainful eyes of Little Egg and Little Golden Dragon. "Who wants you to save me? With your cultivation, you aren't even worthy of holding shoes for me." As Little Egg said, he ran to Heshi's side, grabbed her trousers and said coquettishly, "Mom, there is no food left in the void. Little Egg can only eat crystal stones and spiritual fruits now. I can't even taste anything now." The Heshi's mouth twitched and she said angrily, "You still dare to say it? Who ate all the reserved food?" This group of foodies who only know to eat but can't grow up. I prepare so many delicious foods in the space, but I didn't even take a few bites. I only sent Nangong Yu a few portions, then these 4 little ones had finished them all. Little Egg shrank his neck in a guilty conscience, then he crawled onto her neck to please. He smiled and said, "Don't be angry, Mom. Aren't we here to stockpile food?" Right. Little Golden Dragon also flew to Heshi's ear, smiling flatteringly and saying expectantly, "Boss, you don't have to do anything on this journey. We promise to help you get rid of the magical beasts, but we still need Boss to process them after getting the spiritual beast meat." "Boss, we haven't eaten your food for a few days. We're almost dying of hunger, so have pity on us." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.